Well, quite frankly, I think it's incorrect for us to think that males don't think about aesthetics as much as females. I think they probably hide it a bit better because maybe it's not as macho to admit to the fact that they care about their appearance. But as you correctly said, in the animal kingdom, in general, it's accepted. If we look at peacocks, for example, that's a classic example where an animal has gone out of their way to actually get attraction. So actually I think what's happening now, certainly now we're in 2018, I think it's for the last 10 years really, we've seen this newfound confidence from males to accept the fact that it's okay and actually share that confidence and that enthusiasm for wanting to do something about their appearance in a positive way, and not be too shy about admitting that to their male counterparts as well as females. So as you know, I lecture extensively about the differences between males and female aesthetics, and there's no question that we need to respect that when it comes to males and females. Males need to retain their masculinity, females need to retain their femininity, and probably we need to think of ways to exacerbate that process. What's happening, unfortunately, is females are often having far too much treatment and being what I call animalized. Males are often being feminized. So there are mistakes that are happening, and what we need to appreciate is that there are certain very key factors that define us as males, which are very different to females. Particularly, for example, if we look at the forehead region, it's a lot flatter in a male than a female. A female's forehead should be more rounded and more convex. When we look at, for example, the mid-facial region, it's very feminine for a man to have very pouty cheeks, particularly in the central region. It's better for a man to have a well-defined cheek structure which sits at the side of the cheek as opposed to more centrally. Females look very feminine with this area nice and full, as well as a little bit of definition to the sides. When we look at the nose of a man, it generally is more prominent in terms of length and width, as opposed to a female. A more delicate looking nose and a well-defined tip on a woman is also very, very feminizing. When we look at the lips of a man, as opposed to females, women always look better with fuller lips, particularly with their lower lip being slightly fuller than the upper lip. Males, more of a 1-to-1 ratio, not too well-defined cupid bows, but a nice, healthy looking set of lips which are naturally balanced, certainly can enhance a male's attributes. But certainly there are certain men that can get away with very little lips. If you look at George Clooney, for example, women love George Clooney. We all love George Clooney. He's a great guy. And if you look at his lips, though, he pretty much doesn't really have any. But it works for George. What's really probably one thing that really defines a man, I think, is the jaw structure. I think if we look at the jawline and we look at the prominence of the particularly lower jaw region, it has to be robust in a male. It's a sign of masculinity. It's a sign of good testosterone, and females love it. They always have done. Throughout the decades, we've seen a very similar trait that women tend to go with guys that have a very good jawline and a jaw structure. This is very different in a female. Females never look feminine with a well-defined and a squarer jawline. They should have a more tapering form to their facial structure and a less of a prominent chin. Because otherwise this gives the wrong perceptions, and like I said, it gives them that sort of masculine edge and a slightly aggressive, more dominant feel to their personality, which is certainly not the requirement that we want to, as doctors, give our patients. I think there's no question, definition is very good. All right, definition of a face is very, very important, but there are certain boundaries to that. I think definition in the upper cheek region can be very, very good and gives you a very model-esque look. But if you start to over-define the jawline, and particularly if you try and create a very angular jawline, which approaches more the sort of 90 degrees angle, that can start to look a little bit too masculine. So we have to be mindful of what is female and what is male. But there are some amazing looking ladies that can get away with a well-defined jawline, and it gives them that edge. It certainly provides a very nice base for makeup, and I think a lot of what we do is really a foundation and a base for the makeup artist to actually then go to work. Very, very interesting question. I think deep down males can be also very challenging, because all the while they take a little bit longer to come out of the closet in terms of admitting the fact that they're actually having something done to make them look better and more competitive in the animal kingdom. So therefore they can be quite fussy about looking too different. So that's a challenge in itself. But equally, ladies can be quite fussy. Certain types of high maintenance ladies who particularly don't really know what they want. And that I find that patients like that can be a bit of a challenge. So I always like to educate my patients as to what is achievable realistically and what is also beneficial for them. And not being afraid to say no. I'm certainly not a doctor who will just do treatment for the sake of doing treatment. I will always stand my ground and do what is right for my patients, as opposed to just what they prescribe for themselves.